Lesson number 12, Thursday, September 15th. Substitutes. As we saw yesterday, submission to God's will can be undermined as we rely on our own strength. It is also possible to rely on other substitutes for God. When some people feel depressed, they go shopping for something to make them happy. When some people feel inadequate, they pursue fame. When others have difficulties with their spouses, they look for someone else to give them intimacy and excitement. Many of the things we use can relieve the pressure, but they do not necessarily solve the problem or teach us how to handle the situation better the next time. Only supernatural help from God can do that. The problem is that many times we depend on substitutes for God rather than on God Himself. Here are 3 substitutes that we may use instead of God. Number 1, we use human logic or past experience when we need fresh divine revelation. Number 2, we block problems from our minds when we need divine solutions. Number 3, we escape reality and avoid God when we need communion with Him for divine power. Zechariah helps us to focus on what really matters when we are tempted to use substitutes. After many years away, the exiles and finally had returned from Babylon and immediately began to rebuild the temple. But there was an incredible amount of opposition to this. Some background can be found in Ezra 4-6. So Zechariah came with this message of encouragement to Zerubbabel, who was leading the work. Read the message in Zechariah chapter 4. What does God mean in Zechariah 4:6 when He says, "Then he said to me, This is the word of the Lord to Zerubbabel, saying, Not by might nor by power, but by my Spirit, says the Lord of hosts." How could the completion of a building project be affected by the Holy Spirit? What does this teach us about the relationship between the Holy Spirit and the practical things that we do? God did not prevent the opposition to the temple or spare Zerubbabel from the stress of dealing with it. And God will not always protect us from opposition, but when opposition comes, God may use it as a crucible to teach us to depend on Him. When stress comes, what's your first reaction? Food, television, prayer, submission to God? What does your answer tell you about yourself and the things you need to learn or to change? From the book Gospel Workers, page 322 and 3, it says, "He who loses sight of his entire dependence upon God is sure to fall. We are contending with those who are stronger than we. Satan and his hosts are constantly watching to assail us with temptations, and in our own strength and wisdom, it is impossible for us to withstand them. Hence, whenever we permit our hearts to be drawn away from God, whenever we indulge self-exaltation or self-dependence, we are sure to be overthrown." From the book Sons and Daughters of God, page 105, it says, "Make God your entire dependence. When you do otherwise, then it is time for a halt to be called. Stop right where you are and change the order of things. In sincerity and soul hunger, cry after God. Wrestle with the heavenly agencies until you have the victory. Put your whole being into the Lord's hands, soul, body, and spirit, and resolve to be His loving, consecrated agency, moved by His will controlled by his mind, infused by his Spirit. Then you will see heavenly things clearly. If we would permit our minds to dwell more upon Christ and the heavenly world, we should find a powerful stimulus and support in fighting the battles of the Lord. Pride and love of the world will lose their power as we contemplate the glories of that better land so soon to be our home. Beside the loveliness of Christ, all earthly attractions will seem of little worth. God bless.